My name is Stephanie Fisher Alvarenga. I'm a music industry professional. I've been in the music industry for over 20 years. I'm a music educator, a singer, songwriter, pretty much all things music. I love working with children. I am highly into fashion, so I love I love that side of things as well. Helping others with image and feeling good about themselves, especially professional women and things like that who are trying to find their way for branding purposes and things like that. Like that's a new thing that I've kind of discovered and walked into, and is becoming a part of what I do. It kind of all goes hand in hand when it's industry and entertainment and fashion and makeup and self-improvement, like all of those things kind of, walk hand in hand. So everything kind of leads to the other. So that's where I am now. I found out that I had a health problem after a visit with my primary care physician, just a routine physical. I was getting blood tests done, and after we got the blood work done and, just kind of had a conversation about things I had been dealing with, particularly blood pressure. I knew that my blood pressure was elevated. And I hadn't really done much about it. And we talked about the fact that hypertension runs in my family. So she just wanted me to go and see a cardiologist just to kind of look into that a bit deeper as a precaution. And what even brought me to that, symptoms that I was experiencing, like I was getting very winded, like walking up a few steps, would take everything out of me. And then on top of that, after the pandemic, now you're wearing a mask, right? And so I'm walking up, say I'm going to the train, I'm walking upstairs. If I try to rush, there was one time where I was, trying to catch a train, and I got so winded that literally led me into a panic attack on the train, where I'm like starting to rip my jacket off and, everything, because I literally couldn't breathe. My chest felt tight, and that started me to panic more just because I couldn't catch my breath. So things like that was happening to me. A lot of swelling. My ankles would swell terribly. And I couldn't really wear like my heels or certain shoes anymore because I just couldn't take it. I couldn't take much on my impact on my ankles and things like that, and knees. And I was just in constant pain. It seemed like, and it was a hard pain to describe because it wasn't like a cramping or anything, but it was like a pain from the inside. Like I just felt like my body, my joints were on fire. And I had been feeling like that for a few years, to the point that it became normal. Like I was just used to waking up in pain and kind of functioning through it because I'm a go-getter. I'm going to do what I have to do. And so I just learned to deal with it. Sometimes if it got bad, I would maybe, pop a few Tylenol or something like that, or some type of muscle relaxer, or something like that to kind of help me with it. But it was that, it was headaches that I would get occasionally. Again, sometimes chest tightening, just all of those things. And I'm like, okay, this can't be normal. You know what I mean? I can't just keep, self-medicating and kind of going on. So it's like, I know that it's something, but I was also kind of afraid to hear what it was. And so, it took me a while to even, make that move. But those were ultimately the main symptoms that got me to that. I also wasn't sleeping. For about 2.5 years, I was dealing with insomnia. So I would go to sleep roughly about 4 or 5 a.m. And then wake up a few hours later, to do what I had to do. And then so throughout the day, I'm kind of like going in and out of naps in between things that I have to do, because I'm just now physically tired and drained all the time. As long as I'm moving, I'm okay. But like if I'm sitting down, I would just like, I was just very lethargic and heavy. Like I was just carrying myself through the day. So that was just me for years. It affected my quality of life because I had to work harder to do everything, just the small things. It's like, I had to will myself out of bed, will myself to get dressed. I didn't feel like always doing the primping and priming that I would typically do. sometimes, just in teaching or, sometimes I would just literally have to cancel a lesson because I was just so tired and just, wasn't motivated. I wasn't, feeling like doing anything. So I would go through those spells, and that would, cause me to feel more stress and, to feel a bit depressed and sad and down, because it was just like, any day, give or take, it was just up and down. I didn't know, what one day would feel like from the next. So just those kind of questions, just kind of seeing, what I'm going to have the energy for, or just constantly having to fight my way to do anything, to perform, trying to move and dance on stage. I mean, I travel with different artists. So, you're on stage, you got to have energy. So it's like everything is a force. Everything is a force, a force, a force. So that was a big thing. I probably felt the most broken when I had to be physical. So anytime, like it would usually be performance time, or, when I'm in ministry, because all of those things, require a lot more physical activity. And so when that would happen, or I would get super winded singing, and my breathing would become a problem, which would hinder how, my vocal performance was. And so that really, because I mean, that is my, that is my joy. That is my lifeline. That is who I am. That is, what I've built myself on. So to not be able to do the thing that comes natural, the most natural to you, to not be able to physically do it the way that that you should, that really, really kind of sent me, down a spiral, a bit of a spiral. Yeah. In terms of it affecting me personally and financially, it made me less active. I wasn't doing as much. I mean, the pandemic kind of started that, but then also just normal things that I would like to do or enjoy were just hard to really want to get out and do. I would try to, go out with friends, do different things, but it just wasn't always easy to do because I wasn't feeling the best. Financially, it didn't have a huge impact because, again, I'm a very driven person. But in those moments where I didn't feel like doing something and I'm just canceling because I'm tired, that's the loss. That's, you're losing money that day because you're not working. So, in those instances, I would feel it. But most of the time, I was always pushing myself to do what I had to do. It was just anything outside of what I had to do, I would, I couldn't really find motivation to do that. It definitely affected me emotionally because I didn't feel like me. I didn't look like myself. I didn't feel like myself. Weight gain. And it was just like, even just trying to look nice. Like I felt like, I just had to work so hard. And even though, I told you I'm into fashion. So, I'd have a keen sense for it. And, people would say, oh, you look so beautiful. You look so good. And I just didn't feel that way. I would see a picture of myself and all I could see was somebody who let themselves go. All I could see was somebody who was sad, who was down, who wasn't functioning. Like I wasn't seeing what everyone else was seeing. And a big part of what drives me is feeling like me. So if I'm not feeling upbeat, and moving a certain way and everything is taking so much effort, for me to be me, then that starts to break me down emotionally because nothing feels real anymore. At this point, I'm just performing in every aspect of my life now. I'm pretending to feel good. I'm pretending to have joy. I'm pretending to have energy and all of that stuff. And not really communicating it and not knowing how to. So there's a breakdown going on inside of me, right? And so it becomes a vicious cycle because now that is causing stress that is fueling underlying conditions that haven't been addressed. And so you got stress, you got emotional issues, you got health issues, you got insomnia, you're not sleeping. So all of these things are, working together and you're just a mess. It was difficult because I did not really know how to put into words what I was going through. So it would make me want to just really kind of separate myself and, kind of pull away, because it's hard when it's like, what's wrong? And you can't, you know what I mean? You can't really say it. And then you feel even more alone because you can't explain it. So it's not able to really be dealt with or discussed properly, so then you're kind of just, tug of war, you know what I mean? Just kind of back and forth. And then oftentimes when a person is not dealing with that, trying to get them to understand how what's going inside of you is affecting how you're expressing yourself or how you're being outwardly is really hard for them to grasp, So then that can also cause even more, of a stress, just between you and that person, because now it's affecting how you're communicating and how you're able to understand each other. The breaking point for me was was once I finally went to the cardiologist, because it took me some time to do it. And by the time I had gone to him, I was feeling like, it was just like something has to give, because it just felt like the walls were closing in. So I'm like, let me go and see. And so when I went, we had an initial visit, and he said, okay, I'm not going to put you on blood pressure medication yet. The EKG looks good, but I'm going to schedule you for a stress test. When I went back for the stress test, he saw that I had an enlarged heart, and he felt that at that point, let's do the blood pressure medication, because this enlarged heart and the issues that you're dealing with puts you at high risk for blood clots. And I don't want to take that chance. So I'm going to put you on blood pressure medication. And it was a hybrid of blood pressure medication and a water pill to help with the retention. So that was it. That was it for me, because when you start hearing things like heart enlarged, blood clots, these are kinds of things that, take people out instantly. You don't even know that it's coming. And I just couldn't bear, because, it was just like, well, Lord, I know that I have a work to do, and I know that I'm nowhere near, the point where I have completed, what you've put me here to do. And this is not what life is supposed to be like for me. This isn't the life that you've called me to. And, it just made me really, really sad. I went through, I would say, more depression about that, and just even guilt for letting myself get to that point. Because it was more so, internal things that, started to manifest themselves physically, in my body. So I was just really, really, I was upset. I was angry. And I'm just like, I'm only 43, which I think is still pretty young. And and now you're telling me I got to take a pill every day. I can't breathe. I'm swollen. I'm in pain. I can't sleep. It's just like, enough is enough. And so that was the day that I made the decision, because I'm like, this can't be life. I tried some different things before getting to this program. But the thing is, everything that I was trying was just geared towards weight loss, because, in my mind, the issue was that I had gained too much weight. And once I lose the weight, everything else will fall back in line. Like, I knew my knee problems and ankle problems were a result of me being too heavy and putting too much weight on my knees and ankles. And I had lost weight before on different programs. And when I did, those things did improve, in terms of my swelling ankles and my knees and things like that. So in my mind, it was just always weight loss, weight loss, weight loss, weight loss, nothing else. Until, of course, the blood pressure became a factor. And I'm like, okay, that's weight loss, but that's other things too, that has to be dealt with. So I had done programs like Weight Watchers before. I had some success with Weight Watchers. Actually, before I got married, I was using kind of like Weight Watchers and a hybrid of a program that my nutritionist at my gym had put me on, which was just more so, counting calories, counting grams of carbs, good fats versus bad fats and, things like that. Protein, this is how many grams of this you should have each day within these amount of calories for your weight. And it was working. I mean, I lost a lot of weight doing that before I got married. And so then, but the thing with, certain things like that, if you don't maintain or understand really how to maintain, you're going to eventually put the weight back on, which is what started to happen. So I had done that. And during the pandemic, I tried a program called Arbonne, which is like a program where, you drink shakes, you make shakes like maybe for one or two of your meals, and then you do a regular meal. And, they would recommend, of course, things to stay away from. And I did lose some pounds with that. But again, I wasn't motivated at that time to really stay on top of it. And one thing that wasn't changing was I was still in pain all the time. But, I couldn't stay motivated to do it because even in the heart of the pandemic, like that was a lot of emotional stress and depression going on in my life personally at that time. So it was hard to really stay motivated to do anything. And now on top of that, I'm stuck in the house. So, so it's like, all right, so, like I said, I lost a few and then I didn't stay with it, went away from that. And then I tried, one of the last ones I tried, I think it's called Body Complex. And that one was more so, again, it was shakes, but it also came with the type of supplements that are like meant to give you energy. And then a supplement that's like meant to kind of suppress your appetite. But the thing is with me, I'm not a person that eats a lot, most days I would end up having one meal a day. It would just depend on what that meal consisted of, so I knew, there was that and just other vices that I had going on that was contributing to that, not just me sitting around eating all day because I just, most days if I'm busy, I forget to eat, so that kind of thing, it was kind of backfiring on me that way. So those were the programs that I tried. I would say the most successful thing that I did was when I was working with an actual nutritionist and doing it through my gym. That was probably the healthiest version of the things that I was doing and where I saw, the best results in the most healthy way. So I learned about the detox now from a great friend, Jessie Thompson, who happens to be one of the founders of the program. Because I'm a music educator, I teach her daughter privately, and I had seen a lot of things in terms of what Jessie was doing and just everything that she was involved in and how she was a coach and really speaking out on women's health and particularly, her testimony with fibroids. So I knew a lot of that. And when I would talk to her about different things that I was feeling for years, she's been telling me, you need to try this program, But I'm like, okay, a water fast. Okay. Because I'm part of that too, is because I've never been successful with fast anyway. So that was one of the things that, why I was so hesitant about doing it. And I don't like to be hungry. And so I couldn't imagine only doing water for that many days and not feeling hungry. I'm like, okay, I am already depressed. I am already sad. I am already going through it. Now you're going to have me hangry. So now, I'm like, this cannot be a great combination. But at the point of dealing with the cardiologist, I was desperate. I was ready to, it was just like, whatever I could do. And that was when I was ready to just have a discussion, because she would always tell me, well, let me know when you're ready. Let me know when you're ready. There was no pressure. Just let me know when you're ready. And so, I believe it was the Holy Spirit, honestly, that said to me, going ahead and call her now and do this because, it's more than just that. You know what I mean? This pill or whatever, but there's more that you need to do for yourself, because there's more connected to this than just your blood pressure, than just you being overweight. Like there are root causes that need to be addressed. And so that's when I decided to make the call. And, she shared the information and I'm just like, okay, all right, I'm going to go ahead and do it. Working with Coach Jessie and Dr. Amun and this amazing detox program, I can't say enough about it. I'm going to try to do the best that I can. So I am a totally different person, completely different person. For the first time in 2.5 years or so, I'm feeling like myself. The confidence is back. Of course, I've lost weight, and I managed to do the water fast successfully. And I was so surprised at what I was able to do while on it. First of all, I did not feel hungry. What I did, I would say the first 3 days, because I did the 14-day water fast, the first 3 days, it was more me missing the act of eating. And eating was a part of just everything that I did socially. You know what I mean? Just being in restaurants, going out after rehearsals, doing this, you know what I mean? Like that, it's just a part of what I do. So the act of eating in the beginning, because it was just kind of like, okay, well, if I'm not eating or going out to eat it, then like, what am I doing? Kind of thing. And so once I got past that, the side effects of it, I didn't really feel a lot of that. Like, I think I got a headache maybe one time, but once I went to sleep and I woke up the next day, the headache was gone. So once I got past day 3, the energy was up. And I remembered one of my concerns, because I had asked Coach Jessie, well, now I'm back in the gym because I had started going back to the gym. And I'm like, can I work out while I'm on this? And she's like, yes, you can, just maybe wait, 3 or 4 days. So day 4, I go on a bike ride with one of my good friends. She and her husband, they're like bike riders, as in they do marathons and things like that. And she said, well, I'll come pick you up. Let's go do this bike ride. So did a bike ride on day 4. And I was able to do 4 miles, which she had taken me on bike rides before, prior to the pandemic. At most, I'd probably be able to do about 2.5, 3 miles. We would have to keep stopping for me because I'd get tired or get winded. We did this bike ride without ever having to stop. The only time we stopped was when it was time to turn around and go back. So I was really proud of that. And I said, okay, this is interesting. And so, the days keep going and, I'm just very diligent in making sure that I have my water prepared. I've got the containers that I needed. I had to make it sassy. So I found some cute that I can, hang on my Bible. I was getting compliments on my water bottles because, it's just me. It's got to be a part of a fashion statement. So, I'm carrying my water around. I'm carrying my supplements around because most days when I go out for work and things like that, I'm out all day. And so I would carry that stuff with me. And, my friends were watching, and they were seeing me and they were saying things like, oh, I'm so proud of you for being able to keep up. They're just like, they're looking at me like, wow, like you're really doing this, and my pastor was on board with me and, just checking in. And, he's just like, oh my goodness, I'm so proud of you because he's seeing me toting my water bottles to Bible study and and just, having everything with me. And so then by the time we got to like maybe the end of the first week or so, my friend reached out to me. She says, there's an event in the city. It's like this summer streets event that they have in New York where they close down a large portion of the city. And you can ride your bikes, you can jog, you can walk, you do your skateboard, skates, whatever you want to do. But the city is closed, those whole areas are closed off for you to do all of this. So I'm like, that sounds like, I'm like, nah, I just started kind of riding this bike. Now I'm not that. But I said, okay, let's do it. We went on that bike ride and I did 10 miles. And I absolutely could not believe that I did 10 miles. And the only reason, honestly, that I stopped was because I had to get back home because I had clients to teach, because I probably, would have done even more. And that was just like the most amazing feeling in the world to be able to do something like that, because that was something, that I never could do or, could even fathom doing. And so I found myself even, by the time I got through it a bit, I was going to the restaurants with my friends and sitting there with my water, and they'd be looking at me like, wow, I'm really ready. They're eating their pizzas and I'm sitting there with my tank of water and my spring water and my coconut water. And I'm sitting there like, yeah, and, after a while, I mean, Dr. Moon had advised for me, because of the blood pressure medication that I was on, had advised me to try maybe adding some water-based fruit. And I tried, but it just wasn't, I couldn't really, I would get so full. Like I would take like maybe a handful of berries and I'm just like, I don't want this. It's just, I didn't need it. You know what I mean? I just didn't feel like I needed it. So the only time maybe if I was sitting at a restaurant and I wanted to feel like I crunched on something, I had my apple in my bag and I'm like, okay, I'll take a bite of this apple or something, but it was nothing that I needed to do. So I just kind of left that alone and just continued with the water. And so during the process, I had to monitor my blood pressure. I had to check it regularly, like 3 times a day. And I was noticing that, the numbers had obviously gone down significantly, much lower than I had ever seen, since I don't know when. And I was talking to Coach Jesse about the possibility of me not taking it, because I'm like, my numbers are great. Do I need to still take this blood pressure medication? And so she suggested that I try, but to reach out to my doctor, let them know. So I called the cardiologist's office and I told them what I was doing. And, like, yeah, I've heard of people, what is this program? Okay, yeah, I've heard of people doing water fast and, that helping them. And so they're like, okay, well, try it, but just make sure you continue to take your pressure 3 times a day. As long as your numbers stay under 120/80, then you don't need to take it. But if it fluctuates, then you need to go back to it. Because they said, oftentimes people, once they get on it, they really, we don't see the majority of cases of people being able to stay off of it. And so I'm like, okay, well, let's go. And so I started that process of not taking it and monitoring my pressure, and my numbers were still looking great. I saw the change in my blood pressure. That first number I want to say was probably like 117/73 or something like that. And I had never seen a teen anything in my blood pressure, or an under 80 anything, it was just, and I want to say that was probably after like maybe within the first week, right, that I saw that drop. And I was just, I was flabbergasted because I wasn't expecting to see a result so quickly. And that's really, when I knew and what confirmed for me that, yeah, what you've been eating, what you've been, or not eating, or what you've been drinking, or, just your overall care and stress levels and not sleeping, like that was what that was. That was what that was. And if you get that under control, then these numbers are always going to look the way that you need them to look. There was a moment where it fluctuated, but when it fluctuated, we're talking about like a couple of points, and that was when I was on my cycle. Okay. And so, there was some cramping and things happening. And I hadn't mentioned to Coach Jesse that I deal with that. So she's like, you didn't tell me, there's a supplement you're supposed to be taking, for that. And so, but, she did let me know that oftentimes, when you're on your cycle, and I did read that as well online, that, that pain or, things like that can cause your pressure to elevate a little bit. And it did, because honestly, once that went away, I wasn't dealing with that anymore. I wasn't dealing with the fluctuating numbers. And the other thing in that process too was I was very used to taking painkillers. And so I asked her, I said, can I take my Motrin? Can I take? And she's like, can you just try not, do some ginger tea, do a heating pad. And I'm like, okay. Because even at that point, it's not that the pain was that bad, but I was used to it being bad. So I felt like any day now, this thing is going to do what it normally does. So let me go ahead and ask the question, because I know by tomorrow, like second, third day, that's when this thing ramps up and I'm going to be in pain. And and so when she said that, I'm like, oh gosh, okay. So I went to the store and I got the disposable heating pads that you can kind of like put line inside the under, because I'm like, I have to be out and about. So I'm going to want to maybe have something like that on me all day. So I went and I picked up some of those. I had the ginger tea and I said, okay. Took the ginger, drank the ginger tea, went to bed. I said, okay. There was a little discomfort, but it wasn't the kind of pain that I'm used to experiencing. Like, yeah, I'm not going to be able to move, unless I take something. So I said, okay. So I woke up the next day, still the same thing, just more discomfort, not pain. And so I would say like that was definitely the first cycle that I went through where it was discomfort, the normal kind of, I feel like normal symptoms that you would have during a cycle versus excruciating pain where I have to take 3 Motrin or something like that in the middle of the cycle. So that was a huge thing for me, because I have not gone through a cycle without taking painkillers in years, like probably since I was a teenager. Like that's just a thing. I keep Motrin on deck in bulk, for that time, because, that's happening. That's going to happen for me. So, when it didn't, I was just like, wow, there is, you really start to ask the questions like, well, what have I been doing to myself? Right. And so then the other part was I noticed that I wasn't waking up in pain. And that was the thing that actually brought me to tears, because I didn't know that life. So when I woke up one morning and was just moving, and I wasn't taking a long time to get moving, and we're talking like popping up at 7, 8 a.m. and I'm just bright eyed and bushy tailed and, and I'm moving around and I'm like, wait a minute, my arms don't hurt, wait, my legs, I'm not hurting walking up these steps. Wait a minute. I'm not winded going up these, so it's just like, I'm starting to notice, all of these things, and just notice my energy and the pep in my step. And the other thing, the biggest thing was that I was sleeping. So now instead of going to bed at 4 a.m, like now I was falling asleep at like 10, 11 o'clock, which is record breaking numbers for me, to actually get to bed before the next day. And so for me to fall asleep and be sleepy and have restful sleep, because I use a VersaFit 3 and I sleep in it because it monitors, it shows you your sleep pattern, and it lets you know, how long you're in REM, if you were restless, and it gives you a sleep score. Usually my sleep scores were always poor. It would always register as poor. And so now all of a sudden I'm registering good or excellent. I'm registering like a sleep score of 84 out of 100 or 85 out of 100, because not only am I sleeping, but I'm sleeping peacefully. I'm actually resting. So I would wake up early because I felt rested. And that was just something that I thought was just not possible for my life anymore. I would blame it on the fact that, well, I'm always busy and I run and I do this and I do that, which is true. And I just thought that, this was just par for the course. I'm going to be tired because that's how I push myself. But the not sleeping and all of that stuff was something different, because you would think after the days that I had that I would come and just fall out, but that wasn't happening, So, to get a great quality of sleep to honestly get 8 hours of sleep, which is unheard of for me, or to not get 8 hours of sleep and still feel rested, and still feel good. Like even on a Sunday morning, I live in Queens, my church is in New Jersey. So I'm usually getting up 5:30, 6 a.m. on a Sunday morning. And so if there's something that I'm doing on a Saturday night, which could happen in terms of performances and things like that, I still may not get to bed till like midnight or 1 o'clock. So I may be operating off of 4 or 5 hours of sleep. And that happened. And again, no issue. I woke up, sprung up, and I'm like, okay, so blood pressure is regulated. I'm not in pain. I'm able to breathe. The weight clearly is dropping off, and now I'm starting to get oh my goodness, you're dropping, your face is slimmed down, and then the next thing I'm getting is, there's just this glow about you, there's this glow of God that's on, there's this light about you. Oh, you just look so radiant. You just look, and this is what I'm hearing week after week. I'm hearing glow. I'm hearing light. I'm hearing radiance, I'm hearing, glow of God, like all of these things. Everyone was saying the same thing to me without knowing, that they were using literally the same words. And I'm just like, God, this is, I just, no words, no words. And it was so motivating because something was finally working, but it wasn't just working on one thing. It was working on everything, because that started to help me emotionally, that started to help my mind, to be able to process things better and to be able to see clearer so that I could now be able to focus and target on some of those other root causes that got me to the state that I was in. Because it's like, you can't do it all at once. It's like you got to pick something. And the thing with me is this, I was just so overwhelmed with what was happening with me mentally, emotionally, and physically that I didn't know where to start. I couldn't see where to start. So I feel like, God kind of answered it for me. You're going to start with your health because I'm going to scare the lights out of you with this cardiologist because God always knows what it's going to take for us to, make sudden moves. And so, I feel like he did that for me. And so it started there. And so once I started to do that, it started to kind of trickle down, into other things that I'm now working on because I have a mind to do it. My focus is more laser focused. I'm able to do it now. The coaching support was wonderful because I had a lot of questions. And more so because I wanted to do it right so bad. You know what I mean? I didn't want to cheat. I didn't want to take any shortcuts. That's why when Dr. Moon was like, tell her she can have some fruit. I'm like, I don't want to have any fruit. I want to just, it's like, I wanted to see it through. It was so important to me to see it through. So I never wanted to do anything or run the risk of doing something that was going to interrupt the progress that I was feeling. Especially, when I started to feel better, because it's like, once you grab that, you're like, okay, I am not trying to go back down that road, that I was on. So, I would have a lot of questions. Can I do this? Can I, when it's time to eat, can I eat this? How do I prepare that? When it's time to introduce food back to me, can I have this yet? Okay, I need to wait. Okay, fine. What am I looking for? All of those kinds of things. And, Coach Jessie was just on hand for me. She would give me the information. Sometimes I would send her things that I was looking at, like if it was a salad dressing. Okay, is this salad dressing okay? Do you think I can order this? Yeah, but try this one. Do this version of it. So just having someone on hand to be able to walk you through it was golden, because you can mess up without knowing, you can innocently, mess up without knowing. And that's what I didn't want to happen to me, because I'm like, no, I don't want this to backfire. I don't want to mess up, I want to keep feeling good. I don't want to do anything that's going to trigger me to go back the other way. So, let me make sure all of these things are right. I got a cold. Can I take this cough syrup? No, take our cough syrup. Okay. And so, or try this, do this ginger, things that, you would kind of hear, people talk about from time to time in terms of just natural, doing things in a very natural way. And, you're not thinking about the fact that cough syrup has a lot of sugar in it. You just like, it's medicine. I need to stop coughing, because for me, coughing, if I'm coughing too hard, it strips my voice, which that is what happened. I was coughing so hard that it stripped my voice. So then that affects my work, because I have to teach every day. I'm the vocal director at my church. I had a major concert that weekend. So there was a lot going on. So I'm just like, okay, I'm going to take this Robitussin or whatever this pharmacist says to take, because I want to get that down. And that was the one thing I forgot to ask that question about. And so, now I'll have my own supply of, the cough syrup from the program, because this season is a rough season for vocalists. The turn of the weather, like I've been going through it. It's like, you go outside and it's one temperature. And if you're out all day, by the end of the day, it's something else. And you're dressed for whatever the day started. So, it kind of starts to mess with you. And, the temperature in the house is changing, all of those things. You're waking up freezing. Now your throat is all, all the things which are, terrible for vocalists. And so, now I have my things. I'm still doing my supplements, even though I'm not on the water fast per se anymore. The supplements are a part of my daily routine. I'm still using my structured water. Of course, I'm eating regularly now, but more so, I'm doing more of an intermittent kind of thing. I'm kind of like eating more towards the mid day or evening. And, just really monitoring. I'm not going to say that I haven't allowed myself to have certain indulgences, but, I plan them now. I say, okay, I'm going out the weekend, so I'm going to allow myself to have something then. But, during the week, I'm making sure, that I'm eating, drinking everything that I'm supposed to. And if I am going to have an indulgence, it's like, I'm going to have an indulgence in one meal. I'm not going to, just go crazy for a day, of just eating anything, that I want to or feel like eating, because I don't want to ruin the process. And it's not even just about, gaining pounds back, because you can shed pounds, it's the feeling. I don't want to get that feeling back anymore of feeling inflamed, because I didn't even know that inflammation was what I was dealing with. It was just pain to me, and so then understanding that it's inflammation, and understanding that really, literally during that time, everything that I was eating and drinking, every single thing that I was eating and drinking was fueling the inflammation in my body. And I wasn't drinking water really like that. And so I was dehydrated. And so my joints were achy too, so I wasn't doing anything to support myself. So now I can do that. And then when I do go out with friends on the weekend and have something, if I have something fried or if I do something like that, I don't feel heavy and weighed down and broke down after I've had that, because that's not my diet all week, versus, this is my diet, in one meal, one piece of fried chicken, but vegetables, you know what I mean? So it's like, it's different, it's balanced. It's balanced. And so, like I said, because I'm not consuming those things regularly and I'm still working out and still hydrating myself, then when I do allow myself a treat, that's just what it is. It's a treat. And then it gets pushed out of my body. If I wanted to give any advice to, any of the ladies watching, or just even to myself, thinking about myself a couple of years ago, it's just simply take a step, because sometimes we are looking at the full gamut of everything we're dealing with. And that's what gets overwhelming. You feel like, I can't tackle this all. No, you can't. You can't tackle it all. You can't tackle it all at once, but you can tackle a little bit at a time. And most of the time, when we just take a step at just trying to do something about it and having a little success with just that one thing, that often motivates you to keep going, because it feels a little more tangible because you're actually doing something about it. If you just sit in it, all it's going to do is continue to pile up. you're going to continue to feel worse and worse about yourself, because that's what was happening to me. And I was just becoming more and more destructive to myself because I wasn't addressing things. Because again, I was just going down the list of everything that was wrong in my life, instead of just saying, you know what, let me just take this one thing by the reins and start here and see where it gets me. So just that one step, just in dealing with my health. Because again, that wasn't the only thing I was dealing with, but taking that one step and dealing with health helped put me on the road to deal with the other things. Because like I said, all of it was really a vicious cycle and was kind of, just working hand in hand. So I had to start somewhere in the circle. So that would be my advice, to anyone that sees this, like, just take a step, like, just try to do something and, do it at your own pace. Don't overwhelm yourself with, a lot of times with women, we are carriers and, we try to do it all, because in a lot of ways we're used to doing it all. But you have to be kinder to yourself. And that's what I've learned to do, is to be as kind to myself as I am to everyone else that I like to take care of and love on. I started to return some of that love to myself. My blood pressure numbers are still sustaining. Again, any fluctuation that I notice is really, really, really slight. And I monitor like what I'm feeling like and what I'm dealing with, in that day. And so it's always usually, because I just had another cycle. So it was the same thing. It was the same thing, right? Just a little peak, a slight peak. So that didn't make me feel like, okay, go and take this pill. I didn't. And I waited it out. And once that was over, the numbers shot back down. So I've been doing very well with sustaining that. And I've really been watching it more too, because of the fact that I've started introducing food back into my life. So, I wanted to see how much of a difference, that was going to make, if there would be something that I would eat or drink that would cause it to elevate, so that I could know maybe not to do that, maybe this has to totally go away, that sort of thing. I was typically always kind of like the skinny girl in the group. Growing up, even into, even through my 20s, my weight gain started for me around 2005. I was actually on tour with Jill Scott, background singing. And at that time, I felt so skinny and so frail, and I wanted to be voluptuous, and so I would do things to try to gain weight, right? I would say probably like just before I went on that tour. So I was doing things like drinking Ensure with meals. Like, it was crazy. Like, I was doing things to try to, because I was like, oh my God, my metabolism. Because I was the kind of person I could just, and nothing. And so, I'm like, I want curves. I want, you know what I mean? Like, I'm just, I feel like I'm just too small, and because at this time now curves was the thing, and so I'm just like, I'm super skinny here. So once I went on the tour, eating habits and hours of eating and how you're moving about, and you're traveling a lot and you're not sleeping, and, you're drinking, and, it's all these things happening. And so, I started to gain a little weight, not where I wanted to really, what I'm saying? I noticed, okay, I'm starting to get a little gut here, that I didn't have when I started this tour. By the time I got off of the tour, more weight started to get onto me, because I was always like single digit size. I maintained about like a size 8. I was probably like at about an 8 once I started. And then next thing I know, I'm like a 10, so once I hit, 12, 14, it's just like, this is different. And it just didn't stop from there. It didn't stop from there. Through those years, it just kept going. So 14, next thing you know, I'm a 16, then I'm an 18, 20. So 18, 20 has always been the largest size for me. Weight wise, the largest I had been was 250 pounds. So when I spoke earlier about being on a nutrition program before I got married. When I started that program, that's when I was at 250. By the time I got married, I was like in the 230s, which was the smallest that I had been in a long time. And, and I was looking great, feeling great. But then, I started to we got married a year before the pandemic. And so, I put the weight back on, of course, during the course of the pandemic and things like that, like most people did. I wasn't monitoring or gauging any eating habits. I mean, even in the first year of marriage, I had kind of like stopped doing that, just kind of slowed down with a lot of that. And so I started to pick the weight back up. So by the time I started the detox program, that was when I was the biggest I had ever been in my entire life, because I started at 265. And that was crazy to me. So now I'm in the 240s. So I've lost about 20 pounds. And so I'm just going to keep going. And, my goal is to be under 200, by the end of December. And the way things are going, I definitely think that that's going to happen. And I know that this time I'll be able to keep it off, more so because of the habits that I've developed. I've invested in a juicer. I love my juicer, my normative juicer, and, just doing things like that, and I've made it just fun for myself in terms of, just a part of self-care. I look forward to doing those things for myself. I'm like, this is a nice thing that I'm doing for me. I like making my little juice. I like, monitoring, really, I like paying attention to what I eat now. You know what I mean? It's not as much of a chore as it was before, just kind of like making good choices and it's fun because I'm seeing the results and I'm, loving the way that I'm feeling. So I don't mind doing it. But yeah, that was, for me to be under it's been so long since I've been under 250 pounds that, that was like the first, first short-term goal, really, for me was to get under that 250, because 250 had kind of become the steady, but the 265 that I started with was just a whole other ballpark, because that was just, I'm like, okay, like you're on your way to 300 pounds. We can't do this. You probably won't even make it if you get that big. You know what I mean? That was just what my mindset was, because I'm like, you're already breaking down, so you literally cannot get any bigger than this. The Detox Now supplements that I've been taking, I feel as though, well, for one, I feel like they've helped with energy. I also feel like in some ways they've probably helped with digestion, like, how I take care, how I take in my food and, just even being regular, okay, in terms of bowel movements and things like that, because I know typically I feel like, gut issues, I'm no expert, but I believe that, like gut issues and things like that cause you to, be irregular with that, or you not to have them as often and, things like that, because I would deal with constipation sometimes, and things like that. So I feel like with the supplements paired with the way that I've been eating, I'm regular, when it comes to things like that. I don't feel bloated, okay, after eating and things, because I would deal with bloating a lot. So I don't feel bloated. I'm not, retaining water and, and all of that, all of those things, sodium, that the types of things that would cause me to swell up. And I do believe that the supplements, the Detox Now supplements, are what is helping to aid me in that, how I digest food, how regular I am, and then definitely with the menstrual cycles, how I'm feeling now on the menstrual cycles. I believe that, it has to be because I wasn't feeling any way but the way that I was feeling, beforehand. And so you look at what you've changed, diet and consistent supplements. So, I live by those now. Like the supplements go with me everywhere. I don't leave the house without my supplements. I have to take an extra bag and it's okay. I would also be carrying usually a bottle of my Mountain Valley spring water as well as my coconut water. So I had to kind of do a big shopping bag. So like I have, because I'm a part of Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated, You know, I have one of my lovely Greek little pink bags. And so I would keep that. And so I keep my supplements. I would keep my supplements in the Ziploc bag with the wrapping so that they wouldn't crack inside of there. And so what I am taking, I'm taking heart. I'm taking blood. I'm taking mass. I'm taking balance. I'm taking liver. I'm taking gut. And I don't have my last supplement with me. It's claret. It's in the kitchen, but I'm taking a supplement called claret. But the reason I don't have it in the bag is because it goes in my water that I prepare. So that's not one that I have to carry. So here is, this is my water bottle. So she's in the sleeve right now for when I carry her. But, you know, if I put her in the fridge or anything, you know, I just take it out and sit it in there and then put her in the sleeve. And it has a little situation for a cell phone or anything like that. And I just put her on like that and go about my day, you know, and it's a glass bottle, you know, it is a glass bottle, but it's not, you know, heavier weighty. And it has a, you know, little pop-up straw in there. So super cute. Got her on Amazon, and she was just the right amount, you know, because I needed to do at least like 63 ounces of the structured water. So this is a 64-ounce bottle, but they do have smaller ones as well, you know, for people who, you know, may be on the program that don't have to consume as much water as I had to. But yeah. At the beginning of my process with the detox now and taking the supplements, quite naturally, there are some supplements that already come with the fast that you may choose. But based on your case or what you're dealing with, they may recommend additional supplements to go along with that. So for me, you know, one of those with the blood pressure, I believe we added heart. I needed to do the heart. And we needed to do the mass. So those were two that we added. But then later on, when I told Coach Jessie about the menstrual cycle, she said, okay, well, you always also need to add balance, because the balance supplement, and this is right here, you see that there, the balance supplement would help, you know, with the menstrual cramps and things like that. You said, well, just be prepared to say goodbye to menstrual cramps. I said, okay, well, I'm prepared. Let's say, you know, I'm going ahead and, you know, and order it, you know, and I did notice, you know, in taking it, especially the second time, because the first cycle I didn't have it because I hadn't told her, but the second cycle I did have it. And so again, it was just really, you know, more so just the usual discomfort that we just have as women, you know, when we're, you know, on our cycle, but it wasn't pain. It wasn't cramping. It wasn't, I can't move. You know, it wasn't, I feel weak because I feel like I'm just losing all kinds of blood. And even the blood flow was a bit different. You know what I mean? So just experiencing that. And so I definitely am a believer of the balance supplement. I mean, all of the supplements, you know, I'm a believer of all of them. And that's why, you know, I'm going to continue. I don't take any other vitamins or anything else. You know, this is it. Just doing this, just doing the water and, you know, whatever I decide to eat, you know, and just monitoring that, but nothing else. I definitely do feel as if I'm back in control of how I operate. I definitely felt like my body and what I was going through was determining my day and determining how productive I could be and would be. And now I have a say in it again. You know, now, you know, I'm running things again because, you know, I am resting. You know, I do have energy. You know, I can decide, okay, I'm going to go to bed at this time and wake up at this time and not feel like I didn't get any sleep at all, you know. And so just being able to do that, just feeling motivated again, feeling light on my feet again, you know, it's just there's just something to be said for feeling heavy all the time. And I mean, and feeling heavy inside and out, you know, physically and mentally. Weight is weight. And, you know, either one or both of them will weigh you down. And that's what I constantly felt, was just weighed down. So to now be light and now have control and operate the way that I want to and run my day the way that I want to versus it running me, is just been a blessing. It's been a gift.